Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. We're going to start this very exciting webinar in 1 minute. There are still a few people coming in, so we'll start in less than a minute. Hello, everybody. We're going to start in a few seconds. Just going to wait for a few more attendees. And I think we have an exciting webinar. We're going to show some cool stuff. All right. Again, my name is Martijn Loffers. I'm Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. We're going to start with this webinar. With me, I have Alfons Willemsen, partner of Involvation. We're going to talk about distant learning, and this webinar will be recorded. You can ask questions on the sidebar, and I will pick up the questions if it's in line of what we are talking about. If not, we can reserve them at the end. So at the end, we have also some questions you can answer. All right. Why this webinar? So we are living in challenging days, and what we see right now is there's a shift in behavior taking place. So what you see on the left, on one hand, you see that there's a shift from mobile to desktop. So because people have to stay at home because of the lockdown, people are more forced to use their laptops and their computers. So that's one shift. And on the other hand, you see also a shift from working at home. So you see they work in teams with remote applications like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and a lot of webinars. So Alfons, welcome. Do you also experience this shift?
Yes, Martijn. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. We absolutely experience this shift. We as Involvation, we are involved in consulting and in learning. And in consulting, we see it depending a bit from the industry, from the customer, we see the effects. Learning, which is the topic of today, there we see it definitely. One of the big changes we saw immediately, that all the face-to-face trainings due to the lockdowns and the social distancing were cancelled. So we see big shifts and impacts indeed in learning, but also positive things, and that's what we will focus on today.
Another shift, and this is based on data from the New York Times, as you see in the slide. There's a shift from sporting into gaming. So there are a lot of people, especially my son of 13 years old, is doing a lot of gaming on his PlayStation. So you see a lot of gaming online happening right now. All right. So back to our learning environment and supply chain. Supply Chain Media and Involvation have developed a mind map about continuous supply chain learning. Alfons, can you explain? So there's the VUCA world in the upper left corner on the one trends. So that's happening right now, I would say.
Yes, we will use this mind map today as kind of a reference. And what you see here in the mind map, indeed 4 steps. It starts with the trends. So yeah, we can definitely talk about VUCA at this point of time. No question about that. Then this session, we will focus strongly on number 2, why learning, and the step number 3, how to design a learning program. Last but not least, step 4 is an effective learning program, but in this webinar today, we will focus on step 2 and 3. So why learning and how to design a learning program. The reason is that we see over the years that's where customers, companies really need help to engage the learners and to design a good program.
Yeah, right. And on the trends, you see the 2020 workplace, and that will change, or that already has changed in the last month, and will continue changing, I would say. All right, getting to why learning. So what has changed, I would say, and why learning.
Yeah, if you look at the details of the mind map, what you see here is that why learning, you can look at it from an individual perspective and also from a company perspective. From the individual perspective, it's a combination of what's the motivation to learn, to develop yourself, and in addition, you've got barriers. Why don't you learn? Because of barriers like time, money, budget, etc. From a company perspective, here we see the perspectives from supply chain, and we talk about supply chain continuous learning. That's the topic of the mind map, but also from human resources and other departments. Now, we've been writing and talking a lot about the war on talent. That's still there, although the circumstances are now different, but it's still there. So there's still an important need to learn. And that's what's really happening now, is that if you look at the barriers, that we now have a new barrier.
Yep. And
that's the barrier of distance, where what you can see in the mind map, we had the barriers of maybe not enough time, not enough ambition, but now there's an additional barrier. And that additional barrier first manifested, of course, in work, because it has an impact on how we work, people working from home, etc., but also on learning.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do we overcome this barrier? But also, can we reap the positive things?
I would say, now supply chain is confronted with the fact that they have to work out of home, and they have to still maintain engagement to their supply chain people. So now they get also kind of HR responsibilities they didn't have. So I think supply chain is now also on top of it because they are confronted with this.
Correct. If you look at the current situation, first of all, I think a lot of the topics are focusing on supply chain. So supply chain is definitely back on the radar screen if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people have to manage their people.
Yeah.
How do you do that when you work remote? How do you keep your people involved? So I think for supply chain people, there's more need now for their HR learning and development skills to develop them and integrate them with what they were doing.
I think yes. So they are forced to talk with HR how to keep on engaging with their supply chain associates. Right. So in supply chain, it's all about trade-offs. What are there different kind of trade-offs right now?
No, I think if you look at supply chain in general, the trade-offs are still the same. I think it even stresses the fact that trade-off is, I think, the core of what supply chain is about. It's we always say there's a difference between a problem and a trade-off. A problem normally has one solution. A trade-off has different perspectives. And so probably the trade-offs in supply chain at the moment, it's even more difficult to master the trade-offs because of the panic sometimes, the hectic environment. But mastering trade-offs is still the key element in supply chain. And that's what I want to show here also on learning. To design a good learning program, it's also all about trade-offs. Yep. How do you make the right decisions to have a good learning program?
So okay, how do you design it?
Yeah, that's the second part which we want to address in this webinar from the mind map. And what you see here, there are a couple of things. First of all, it starts with structure. And basically what we do very often in discussions with customers, we help them in going to all the elements here. It starts with structure. What's the target audience? What are the learning objectives? What do you want to achieve? You need to take into account the individual learning styles of people. And then we come to two elements, reach and intensity and the learning dichotomies, where you have to make choices. And that's where you have your trade-offs. For example, reach and intensity, you can do e-learning. E-learning, you can do it synchronous, asynchronous, but it's all about how many people do I want to reach and how is the intensity and the depth of knowledge I want to convey and transfer to people. So the whole designing of a program it's all about trade-offs, and it has to be tailor-made to the company, the target audience, etc. And this is, I think, very often underestimated, especially when we start from a supply chain perspective. Focus is very much on content, but that's one element only.
Yeah.
It needs also to be good from a didactical point of view.
Yeah, right. But I can imagine it now. Some companies say, we have different priorities right now, to handle all the challenges in supply chain. Is e-learning now on the radar, or maybe less? Or what do you think?
It depends a bit from company to company, and that's I think why I hope that this webinar will help. What you sometimes see that because of the operational hectic environment, companies don't want to force learning onto people. But I think that the best companies and the best situations are where learning is integrated with your work and what you're doing, because basically you need to learn every day.
Yeah, and you see right now there are a lot of webinars going on, and a lot of people are watching webinars right now because they are work at home and they have time. So that I think that So next, what has changed now with the current situations?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that due to the current situation where we have the new barrier, which is distance, I think it also gives a lot of new possibilities. And the interesting thing is that, and that's why we will show a couple of examples, that the current situation gives possibilities, especially on those trade-offs, whether it's reach and intensity or the learning dichotomies, because now you can see you can get the best of both worlds.
Okay.
And for example, let's see e-learning synchronous, asynchronous, meaning do you have a fixed program, or do you want learners to do it in their own pace and then synchronize, for example, the joint learnings? I think at the moment, what you can do, and having more and more remote options, you can get the best of both, which has a lot of advantages on how you can reach your population and tailor it to the target audience.
Yes, I got a question, from one of the audience. They say, a lot of content providers or learning providers have accelerated to put their content online, and also free classes and that kind of stuff. What is your response to that?
Yeah, I think in a way it's good, absolutely. But what we see, and I think what's needed, there is some guidance needed.
Yeah.
I mean, very often you can say, okay, you know what, everything is available. But it's like you want to learn something about a topic like, what is it, system dynamics?
Yeah.
And they tell you, okay, here you got a pass to go to the library, good luck.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So I think people, employees need to have some guidance and help in where to find the learning. But the fact that things are available, of course, helps.
Yeah, and you see a lot of also stuff on LinkedIn available, short, bite-sized videos, but still is not integrated in a track.
Correct. Integrated in a track or not relevant maybe to your work. But that's what we will come to a bit later.
Yeah, right. But why continuous learning?
Yeah, that's one of our philosophies. Is we believe that there should be a situation created that people can learn continuously. And one of the reasons is this: the forgetting curve from Mr. Ebbinghaus, which is already from the 19th century, basically stating that if you learn something, and this is valid for everyone, it depends a bit from person to person, but you forget things.
Yeah.
And that's why we think that having learning or training as a one-shot doesn't work, because after time people forgot. And we believe that if you create a continuous learning environment that people learn, that basically means that you create a lot of learning moments, and it also creates repetition, and it means that knowledge, skills, that they stick. That's the whole idea of continuous learning.
And has this curve changed in the current situation, or is it still the same?
I think it's still the same. I think what you probably will see in a lot of companies, that due to the current situation, and we see it, for example, in S&OP processes, that what is happening now, the focus is very much on the short term, responding on what's happening, which probably has an impact on lesser attention for the midterm and long term.
And what I also see or experience is right now, if you go into a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams meeting or whatever, you know, you are very focused on the things you want to discuss. There are no side steps in your conversation.
Right.
So you're not inspired or triggered by some new ideas.
Yeah, I think that's one of the downsides, and we'll come to that later when you design a learning program. I think the social distancing in that way is also really creating a bit of psychological social distancing.
Yeah.
So I think that what's really needed when you build programs, and you were talking about e-learning in a minute, yeah, you can have people who go into e-learning, but they're on their own doing it.
Yeah.
I think what's crucial is that you blend your programs, and what you do, and also help your people with still creating that team.
Yeah.
And making sure that people connect with each other. Yeah. Although they're physical now distance, but in a way they should be connected.
So how do you design this cycle?
Yeah. So what continuous learning? That's what we want to create and what we are creating. And I've got here two concepts which I want to illustrate briefly. On the left, you see the magic circle, and it's a tool or a concept we use a lot. It's basically derived from the learning cycle from Kolb, but it's adjusted by a Dutch professor years ago to link it to experiential learning. And basically, what it shows is that if you have an experience, and we strongly believe in experiential learning, but we believe that if people experience something, that already helps in having a different forgetting curve. But what you have with this cycle, you bring people an experience, and then you need to take people through the different steps in order to get that feedback loop, and that they can apply it. So that's the magic circle. So again, using a lot of experiences, which I'll show in a minute. On the right, you see a model which is called 70-20-10, which is now being adopted already for some years by a lot of companies. And to me, the most important thing on the 70-20-10 is basically what you see here, 70% is on-the-job experience. So there you see the link to experience. I think the main element of this 70-20-10 is let people understand and create a mindset that they are always learning, and that they reflect themselves and take the next step. Yeah. So that's, to me, the most important message of 70-20-10, linked also to this magic circle.
So the 70% is on-the-job training.
Yeah.
So in your environment you're normally working on, and you know, if you are a demand planner in S&OP, training your demand plan.
Yeah, or in any case, realize that what you're doing, that you need to reflect why it worked or why it didn't work, and that you learn for the next time.
Yeah.
So to me, the 70-20-10 is very much a mindset thing.
So yeah, and this 10% is only, well, a small part where you actually go to a classroom or courses, or now online courses.
Correct.
Yeah. And how do you see the differentiation between team training and individual training?
No, I think it's the on-the-job experience. That's probably where you have a lot of individual training. But I think the other ones, it's crucial to have teams, colleagues, where you can reflect, ask their opinion, but in any case, stimulate that learning.
Yeah.
And
So what do we see here? I see on the left
Yeah,
side a familiar view.
Yes, what you see here are a couple of tools or elements we use in our experiential learning. So we see on the right upper corner e-learnings which we have available, or e-learnings in general. We've got a portal, a simulation portal, and on the left you've got two games, business simulations. And these are all tools you can use in your learning, in your continuous learning experience. And let me take the example of the e-learning and of the business simulation on the left upper corner, the Fresh Connection, which is probably recognized by a lot of people, hopefully. The e-learning, it really helps to get cognitive elements to people, and they can do it on their own, in their individual environment, at their own pace, whatever. The pitfall, as already mentioned, could be that if it's too much focused on e-learning, it's very individual. And that's why, for example, a game like the Fresh Connection, which we use a lot in our supply chain learnings, it's very strong because it's about teamwork. So you have to achieve something together in team.
So basically you have a team of four with four different kind of roles. And you are managing a fruit juice manufacturing company.
Correct.
And you have different different roles and objectives, and in cycles you are playing it together.
Correct. And it's all about managing trade-offs. And that's of course a disadvantage if, for example, you would do only e-learning. In a trade-off, it's interesting if you're a supply chain to hear what sales wants to achieve, or operations, or purchasing, and together to come to the right decision.
So I heard that over 250 universities are using this Fresh Connection game in the curriculum for supply chain education.
I think it's already more than 500-600.
All right. And also by companies.
Yes. We use it a lot. We work very close together with our partner in Change, and we use the Fresh Connection, and at the moment we are developing a new game for IBP, but we use it in our corporate programs for companies. And it's a great tool to achieve the learning objectives depending on the company target audience.
And on the lower left side, you see a physical game, and you know I've seen it in real life in a workshop, and now it's the chance to create this in an online environment.
Correct. This is a game which we've been playing a lot over the years. Are still playing. Actually, at the moment not, because of the limitations at the moment. But there we are developing something new, which I will show later in this webinar, that we can also do this remote.
And you see the Value Chain Academy with all kind of courses, individual courses you can follow. Isn't it the part regarding to the questions asked earlier? You know, what to choose from that? You know.
Yeah, and that's again my example from the library. You can consider it kind of a library where you've got all kind of elements, or you can call it Lego blocks, and but that's paired together with companies, and very often it's a combination of learning development and HR to develop together what's the best set of learning paths, tools for the objectives.
So so it's up to supply chain, but also in combination probably with HR. You're stating it's a joint effort. So what sense is it a joint effort between SCM and HR?
No, I think it's you need a joint effort. Why? Supply chain very much focuses on content and technical skills, process, IT, etc. But for example, how to get things done and personal skills, that's where HR and learning development more often has better insight and how they can help. And you cannot focus only on hard skills. It's a combination of hard skills and soft skills. So the best programs we've developed and what we are doing, it's always an effort together with HR, learning and development, and supply chain.
What I see in regarding in supply chain, you know, it used to be that for software applications you have to go to the IT department, but nowadays supply chain is getting back their control, and they want to know what's around in the market on supply chain software. So regarding IT, the choice is mainly made by supply chain and not so much by IT anymore. Of course, you have to know which platforms you are using and etc. But now supply chain has more grips on IT, and in this sense, it's the same probably with HR matters.
Correct. What we've seen over the last years is that within supply chain we see more and more developments and ideas already what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So what are the topics, but also what are the levels? How can we involve not only the bigger countries but also the smaller countries? So you see already more HR knowledge and learning and development knowledge coming into supply chain, which I think is great because that's needed, and I think that will develop also over time and it will accelerate.
So, but how do you design a path?
Yeah, I can give you this example. This is just an example of a learning path, and like I mentioned, it's all about continuous learning. So you want to create learning paths which have an extended time. It's not a one shot. And this is just an example where you've got a target group. Let's say you've got a group of 100 demand planners globally who you want to train. So you can do that with some pre-information. Why we're going through this learning path together. We can do an assessment. An assessment normally is just a teaser on what topics are going to be addressed and showing them that they don't know yet all the details. E-learning to have the cognitive elements on demand planning in this case up front. Then we've got here a face-to-face workshop, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Where very often in the face-to-face workshop, we take all the elements from the previous steps and focus very much on and how do you apply it in your working environment. And then we've got on-the-job learning, which we do more and more, and is very successful. Basically, what you do is at the end of the face-to-face workshop or during the face-to-face workshop, you select small projects or you determine small projects, and after the training, after the face-to-face workshop, participants basically run their small projects. And it has a couple of advantages. One of the advantages is that they can apply the learnings already in their work environment. And secondly, you can already generate benefits from your learnings and basically the benefits from investing in training.
Is it also a kind of a coaching role?
Yeah, it's a coaching, and we do that remote. And that's, if you look at this learning path as an example, basically all the elements here are already, and we're already remote. The only one here is the face-to-face workshop.
So I was wondering, because now we're living in different worlds, so the face-to-face workshop is limited or hard or impossible.
Yeah, that was one of the things why we were struggling a bit, because, for example, where we had a 1-day or a 2-day face-to-face workshop, we tried to make that remote, and in the past we used webinars like this. The problem with those webinars and tools was that it's very much one direction. It's sending. We are also very much sending now, but
we try to talk.
The webinar is sending. And also it doesn't get the interactiveness which you want and which you can achieve at the face-to-face. And that's why we've been looking and we found, and we're using it now, it is what we call a 3D learning environment, which is called Aula, and I'll give a demo in a minute. And you see it in the left upper corner. Aula, it helps, it creates an environment that we can bridge the gap between the webinar and the face-to-face.
And how about the Microsoft Teams sessions or Zoom? Because you can see each other in that area. How about that?
Now, that of course is also one of the tools you can use. And again, Aula 3D learning, it's a tool. Like Teams, for example, is a tool, and you should always think about what you want to achieve, which tool is best. So for certain things, teams can be perfect.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a very interactive workshop, where
Yeah.
you want teams to work together, to brainstorm, to have breakout sessions, come back together again, that's where Aula can really help.
And I think, you know, getting back to Microsoft Teams, you know, the attention span is quite limited, I would say. You know, you have calls of 30 minutes, and it's very crisp and very to the point. You have decisions to make, and everybody has their saying. And you know, if you're doing it right, you make your trade-off, and you come to the decision. That's it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also what people now see in using Teams or Zoom for their work.
Yeah.
That hey, it's very effective.
Yeah.
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 But you cannot do it very long. You're right. And that's also one of the advantages we see in Aula.
Yeah.
We've redesigned trainings.
Yeah.
And let's take an example of a one-day training. We redesigned it in session of 3 hours.
Yeah.
So 3 times 3 hours. Because Aula, 3 hours, no issue.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is it also creates, in that way, a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
Because you have multiple sessions, so that supports even more the continuous learning. And what you see, it helps even more than to integrate with your work topics.
Yeah.
So you can already, after the first session, say, okay, let's take already this topic, which we just discussed, and apply it already in your work. Yeah. And in the next session, which is next week, let's come back on that.
Yeah.
So what we've seen, because you really have to redesign your face-to-face into this, it gives more opportunities, and it makes training, I think, more agile.
Yeah. So we see some on the slide some pictures, some illustrations from Aula, and on the lower left side you see 4 people talking to each other, you know, in the 3D environment, and with headsets, you know, at home or whatever. And on the upper right you see some you know, areas of this 3D environment. You know, I suggest to go to the island.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just let me check, make you presenter.
Yeah, then I can
yes.
show it briefly.
So, and now, Alphonse, you know, take it away. Show us, bring us to the island.
Yes.
So here you are.
So here I am. I'm logged in as facilitator. So normally, what you do, you log in as facilitator, and also the learners log in. So they are all avatars. So what I'm here at the Sun Deck, it's called. And indeed, what you said, Martijn, it's an island with different rooms. I'm here at the Sun Deck, and the Sun Deck you can use, for example, as introduction. So I'm now standing on a towel, and I uploaded my picture. So if you've got participants who don't know each other yet, you can do this, that they in any case see who is behind the avatar. You can see also here that we are seeing involvation. We are seeing here the webinar introduction. It's fully configurable, so you can use whatever you want for the different things you want to show. Yeah.
So normally I would also be standing there with my own avatar on this island. Yeah.
All right. And let me. I want to show 2 rooms. So here you've got the island. This is an overview of the different rooms. So you see a lot of different possibilities, and each room is dedicated for certain different workshops, training techniques. And that's what I really like about Aula, the whole idea behind it, that it's about full immersion. So after a couple of minutes, you don't know that, or you don't realize that you're an avatar, and you're focusing on what you want to do. I'm going to take you first to the multifunctional room, which is this one. So now we are into we enter the multifunctional room.
All right.
What you can see here on the floor, and that's what I really like, it's called voice transition. It means that on the whole island, you've got different rooms divided by voice transitions.
Yeah.
So if people are standing on different sides of that voice transition, they cannot hear each other. If I go into this room, and if I would have a group of 20 people, for example, we are in this room. And if people are standing next to me, they can hear me.
Yeah.
but I can also say, okay, let's break out in different groups, go to the corners of the room, and then they can only hear each other. But as a facilitator, I can walk to them and talk with them. And this room is really designed for different purposes. So you've got here, you can present a PowerPoint, you can share your screen if you want. Here you can upload a URL. You've got here all kinds of different tools.
So this is live?
This is live, this is live.
All right.
So I can create a new screen with a new PowerPoint, which I can upload. And this room is really designed for brainstorming, interactive sessions.
Yeah, right.
I've got here also, I can draw.
Yeah.
So I can make a drawing. I'm really not good at drawing, but okay, I'll put an A, that's it.
Yeah, right.
This is quite difficult. So you can even if you've got a professional iPad for drawing, you can scan the QR code and use that. So this is a room with a lot of training possibilities. And the last room, which I want to show you in this brief.
Before you go there, so I can imagine that you have looked at several 3D options to choose from.
Yeah.
So why did you choose this environment?
We chose this environment because the whole idea behind this was workshops and training. So didactical it's really very well thought out. And secondly, it's very flexible. So we can tailor it to the training and the audience we need. And of course, every provider has their pros and cons. I'm very positive about how we can make it very flexible and use it for our training needs.
Okay. How many people can be on this island at one moment?
32. That's at the moment, but you can create more islands if you want.
Yeah, okay.
So that's fully configurable. If you've got, for example, 32 people, you can also have different groups at different parts of the island, and they can work separately. Yeah. No issue.
Yeah, right.
And at the end of a session, you can save the settings, and the next time you're there, you can go back. Okay. The last thing I want to show you very briefly is this room. Because we were talking about the supply chain game, which is a physical game. Yep. But in this room, what we have now is basically our supply chain game, but in a remote version. So we can also play now our supply chain game in this way. So we can have a group of 4 to 6 people, which we normally have in a physical game, and do this game completely remote. So that's the next development where we are working on.
Okay. Any questions? You know, to me, I've been to this island twice, so for me it was quite new and quite fascinating. You know, if you have questions, you know, do ask, because you know, we're here now. Otherwise, we go back to our PowerPoint presentation. So, so how many times have you used it so far for this supply chain learning?
We started with this beginning of last year, okay. And so we've used it quite a lot. And like I said, we're now developing new things. So we've got here our supply chain game. We also have our production control game. Yeah. And also our supply chain risk game. Because supply chain risk, supply chain resilience is a hot topic. Yeah. So also our supply chain risk game we are now using in this room.
And I heard that you have used it also from people from different continents.
Yeah, that's also a big advantage of this. So from the Value Chain Academy, we've got different franchisees in different regions. So for example, playing here the supply chain game with a Chinese facilitator, or a facilitator doing it in India or in Spanish in Latin America, no issue. So it also solves a lot of the language issues.
All right, I got some questions here. What is the pricing for Ola? What do you use?
Yeah, we integrate it in the total offering, so that's not an easy answer to give.
No.
But if people are interested, let me know.
Yeah. How is it? How is distributed this island learning? So how do you use it? I think, you know, it's just you get an invitation and you go online.
Yeah. We integrated in our learning program, and then we just sent an invitation, and we meet for basically what would have been the face-to-face workshop on the island.
So I think you have showed my colleagues around on this island. It was quite easy, like entering a webinar. You have only a slide download of software, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
And do you use all these pavilions on the island?
No, not yet. I think we use most the multifunctional room, and especially now going into the more physical games to do them remote, we will use this room. It depends a bit. You've got also an auditorium which you can use for a standard PowerPoint presentation. It really depends again on what's the objective of the training, what's the target audience. But the whole thing is that in the design of the training, use more rooms, because then you make sure that people have to move with you to the next room, you keep them active, etc., etc.
Another question, do you believe that the avatar and the landscape could be distracting?
Yeah, could be. I haven't heard that until now. No. Sometimes what you see that in the beginning of a session, people try to see the options of how to fly, how to walk, etc.
Yeah.
After a couple of minutes, they stick to the content.
What I find fascinating is you have also a bar. When you are sitting next to each other, you can have a one-on-one conversation.
Correct.
So it is also, when a breakout, because you have to go to the toilet and have some coffee, whatever. So when you integrate it in your whole program, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you go in the physical world, you go do your thing. Yeah. But in the virtual world, you go have a one-on-one.
Yeah. So that and again, that's I think one of the good elements how they designed it. That bar is really for that.
Yeah.
For kind of a break.
Yeah.
And the second element is what you mentioned, is that the social distance of the voice distance changes from room to room. So you have rooms like in the bar where you only hear the people next to you, which is good. So you can also have a one-on-one or with a small group.
Okay, right. Let's see. We have more questions. So you can continue where you have left last time.
Correct. That's also why, for example, we use it also in consulting, that if you've got a project team, that you've got a project team meeting here, and then you save it, and the next week you can continue with everything you saved in the previous meeting.
And you showed the Fresh Connection, your online game. Yeah. Will you present it in this island, or you go on separate environment?
No, very interesting. A couple of weeks ago, we had a training, the IBP Boost Camp, where we used this Aula island, but the teams played the Fresh Connection.
Yeah.
So actually, we merged and mixed Aula with Teams and with Fresh Connection, and it worked perfectly.
Who has developed Aula? As a question from the audience.
It's a Swiss company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it publicly available, or it's kind of brand new, or is it
No, it's not that brand new, but it's not publicly available. No.
Okay. No. All right. I would suggest to go back. And if there are more questions, we will get back to this area. All right. So, to you, is it a breakthrough, this 3D environment?
Yes and no. I think it was already there. I think what is the breakthrough, and that's really interesting, is that due to the current situation where remote has become a must instead of an option, what you see now that customers, companies are more receptive to do this.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a breakthrough, because now we can really exploit all the opportunities and take the next steps. And in my opinion, where in the past, for example, a face-to-face session was the base case, I think in the future it will be the other way around. That I think a remote training program will be the base case. Yeah. And that you have to prove if face-to-face is needed and people have to fly in. Because the advantages of Aula are, first of all, you save travel costs, you save time, especially travel costs. Flying in 32 people into a session is very expensive. Yeah. But also from a quality point of view, like I said, it will be, I think it improves the impact on work. So it creates also more agile learning. And also, what I think is a very important advantage is that it reduces the threshold on who can go into trainings.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the past, training was for the happy few.
Yep.
But now, I think the audience you can get into trainings and who you can offer trainings is much more. It's larger. There can be more inclusion, etc., etc. So there are a lot of upsides I see on this.
And I think that this environment, especially, it's something different, something else from Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So you're feeling you are in a different environment, literally.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. And to me, I would say that people within the company will ask each other, "Have you been to the island?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it's like a resort thing.
Correct.
And I think that and that has a ring to it, and it's cheaper than going to an actual resort.
I wouldn't be surprised. The same what we had the last years is that at some companies people saw the fresh connection as have you done the fresh connection? Probably this can be similar.
Yeah. Another question is all available for Middle East customers?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
It's developed in Switzerland, and Involvation is doing trainings all over the world digitally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
If people are interested, they can contact me.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have more questions, keep them coming. So another thing, there are different objectives what we see in knowledge management and learning. And on our side, we have also some developments. So what I see. So we have developed, Supply Chain Media has developed a knowledge bank with machine learning. And maybe to get a bit into that, there are different objectives for employee engagement and learning. That's what we have found out. You have onboarding for new colleagues, new demand planners entering a company. Next, you have developing talents who are very hungry to learn more and read more and so on. Sharing of knowledge in general, what has been taught and what has been applied, that kind of stuff. And identifying the company trends, what's happening within the company. So basically, we have addressed these 4 objectives. And what we have done, Supply Chain Media has published since 2011 our quarterly magazine and also online. And basically, we created what we call the network for supply chain. It's an environment where you can read stuff, not videos, but articles. And basically, when you enter this environment, first you create your personal profile with your role, but next you're gonna say, okay, who do I want to follow, which persons, which companies, and which topics. And based on that, you will see on the right side a search engine, and on the left side you will see what other colleagues have been reading. So basically, you get your recommendation engine of content. It's personalized. You get personal recommendations on your profile, and you see on the left side recommended articles. And on the right side, as a demand planner, you can type in SNOP and you get article cases and that kind of stuff. So we now are, this will be live next month, and we have developed it in the last 2 years, and it's quite complex with algorithms, that kind of stuff. But basically, it is reusing this content. So I was wondering, how does it fit in learning, in your perspective?
Yeah, I think this fits perfectly. We are talking about continuous learning, and I think this is again an additional learning possibility. If people have this available, and especially like I said, it's very much about how do you apply it in your work. If you can have links to articles where people were interviewed who implemented things, etc. So I think it's very complementary to the whole set of tools you have in creating a continuous learning environment.
So in the past, we have contributed articles for training purposes on your side. So when people had an assignment for next week, to inspire them. They get cases from our side to see, okay, read it and then apply it in this assignment.
Yeah. So in the past we integrated already in more the hard version, but this is a perfect tool how we can integrate it going forward.
Yeah, and one thing is this is very cool. But so we have tested it, and our companies, multinationals, going to implement it. There will be pilots in the next month. And the cool thing is also what I see, we are creating a dashboard so the executive will see what people are looking for. So you can see, okay, what are they typing in the search engine, like a Google Analytics? Do they find the answers? Do they read these articles? Or if not, they can't find it or don't read it or look it up again. So you know what they are looking for, and if they find it, and also that gives a better feeling what the training need is or the knowledge need is within the company. So we also create a dashboard on top of that to see, okay, what our people are looking for. And another thing is what we're gonna test and probably apply is gamification, that you will get points, badges, and how hungry are you, and have you read it? So we will also apply gamification in this environment, and it's all on an individual level, so you can see who is reading what, and for onboarding purposes or whatever, and then you can apply gamification. So I think that gamification is the future. So what do you see as main, to wrap it all up, we are all close to an hour, but what do you see as the future of supply chain learning?
Yeah, I'm very excited about what's happening now. We're on this journey for continuous learning already quite some time, but I see now things really accelerating. So how I see the future of supply chain learning is that it really will lead now to a more integration of learning and work.
Mm-hmm.
And where in the past, I think we were talking about every day is a working day. I hope in the future we can say every day is a learning day.
Yeah.
And so if everyone starts mixing work and learning, I think that's what really brings us forward.
And indeed, we are working on our SCM Wisdom, our knowledge bank with machine learning. You see in open source stuff available. And now also from the company side, they see there's a need for learning to engage people more and more, and to keep them within the company and keep them, involved. So and this gamification, I think that your Fresh Connection is an example of gamification.
Yes.
And also your board game you are now translating into Ola is also kind of gamification.
Yeah, we use a lot of gamification. Also to get some fun in it, but always it should be linked to linking it to that learning cycle, to reflect, and in the end, gamification is a tool and help to create continuous learning.
With this illustration, we had an article in Supply Chain Movement. I think it was Q4 last year. Now you see an arcade, but an arcade is also moving online. Is what we see right now. My son at 13 is going online in a digital arcade, that kind of stuff. So I think that it's also transgressing to the virtual world. There's some question about from the audience. Is there a one-time fee for all Aula, or how does that work in general?
It depends what a customer wants and how it needs to be set up and integrated.
Yeah.
There's no one solution. It's always tailor-made. Basically, everything we do, it's tailor-made.
Yeah. I would like to wrap up with some final questions if there are any more. But I would say with Aula, you have seen other 3D environments, very fancy one. What is your opinion about that?
Yeah, for example, what you see and hear a lot, it's about VR and AR. And again, this week Apple came with a new Apple glass, which will be launched.
Mm-hmm.
We keep track on everything what's happening, and there will be a future there. But I think at the moment, for example, on VR, it's not yet practical to use it in trainings as much as we can see it for Aula, for example.
I've had using a VR helmet, but it's quite burdensome, I would say.
Yeah, it has a lot of practical issues. First of all, it's the investment in the equipment, in the software, but also you get, after half an hour, you get sweaty. A lot of people get sick by using it.
Yeah.
Will it be solved in the future? Absolutely. So we keep continuously track on all the technological developments that are out there and that will be there. And maybe in 3 years' time, we see that our life is outdated and we are in a new phase.
Yeah.
Maybe yes, but that's I think what's our role, to keep track of everything that's there and grasp the best opportunities and integrate it with content into how do we build really that continuous learning environment.
Yeah. To me, the Aula environment is good enough to be convincing, and it's not overly developed, etc. And then it could be distracting.
Correct.
And I was in a webinar a few weeks ago. It was very fancy, but there were disturbances in the technology. You didn't know if it was recorded or the voice was lagging, that kind of stuff. So these are kind of practicalities we have to solve.
Yeah, that's you asked earlier why Aula. Keep it smart and simple. That's what I really like. That's why I like the whole concept. Yeah.
And what I experienced, I've done a demo 2 weeks ago with my team, and we could talk to each other. And we, it was. I think that is the best part, that you could talk to each other. Of course, you can change your clothes and make the avatar look like yourself, that kind of stuff. And that was very good. Yeah, and I getting back to what the New York Times has researched. There will be a shift. There is a shift going from mobile to desktop. Do you think that will get back to mobile, or what would you think? Would you expect of this kind of shifts?
No, I think the shifts we see now, what's happening in the world around us, of course, is very drastic.
Yeah.
The same like working from home. I think there will be a shift back, but not completely.
No.
And I think, again, talk about learning. Let's think about what are the good things and the bad things about the opportunities we now have because we have to do it. And what are the good and the bad things from the thing we cannot do now, but we did in the past. So again, learn and move forward.
Yeah. Interesting question from the audience. What is your experience with using moods in the 3D demo with the avatar? You have different moods if you are angry or what is it?
You can do role plays, and in the role plays you can use the different moods.
Yeah.
We haven't used it that much until now. Why? Because I have the feeling then you are more working with moving the or manipulating the avatar and with the mechanics of that than with the real content. So until now we haven't used it a lot. So maybe in the future, but until now
I've seen it in a demo that you have a rainy cloud above your head, and then it's okay, you are a bit down or whatever. I don't know what the mood is. Yeah.
Maybe we keep it too smart or simple at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's better to say what you're thinking than expressing it. And you have up to 32 people, I think. Yeah. But mostly in a room, when you have a round table, you have 12 or whatever, so you can talk and see who's feeling how and what whatever. All right. I think we are we're through on the hour. Final question. Yes, you will receive the recorded webinar, or you will be able to watch this again or send it forward. We'll make sure that we will have a link to both the recording and also some information about our knowledge bank with machine learning, our SCM Wisdom, and also to the mind map. And then you get also the details how to reach out to Alphonse for further information. So with this, I would like to wrap up. I would like to thank the whole audience for watching. It was good to see that so many people were showing up from the Far East and Europe especially. So that's good. Thank you, and hope to see you again soon. And Alphonse, I'd like to thank you for your explanation and for your demo. It's quite exciting to see.
You're welcome.
So thanks again, everybody. You will get informed about this, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Okay. Bye bye.